Hi, hey, happy holidays, everyone. So this will be your fourth discussion in understanding the self. Of course, due to pandemic, we have to also make sure that we as individuals are healthy, physically, mentally, socially, of course, and financially as well. Now, in this topic, we're going to talk about taking charge of one's mental health. Okay, so why is it very important for everyone, not just you in my class, but everyone knows how to take care of one's mental health? Of course, if there are any physical illnesses, mental illnesses are also present. But it doesn't mean that just because here in the Philippines, we can always say na kaira man ni, kaira ni, pair, or whatsoever, or wala tayo choice, pero buhaton nato ni. Even though we have those coping excuses, at some point we still need to take care of our mental health. I remember everyone, what your mind perceives, your body achieves. So we always have to think if we are healthy physically, are we even healthy mentally or emotionally? During this pandemic, a lot of concerns about mental health arise. Okay, so you can really say that we Filipinos, even though we have high resiliency, okay, we are still susceptible for any mental health issues. Now, this will be the guiding question during our discussion. First is, can stress really mold character? Okay, remember, character, behavior, attitude, and mood are four different things. All right, so character is the whole you. It is already composed of your personality, behavior, and mood as well. So, can stress really mold you as a person as you grow up? And how do Filipinos deal with stress sourced from the social and political environment? So, when you say social, it is more on your interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. Okay. I've discussed before on one of our discussions that Filipinos are very warm and collective. It means that we are driven by being in a group. Family, for example, our family orientedness is an example of our collective approach or collective behavior. Okay, so another example would be if we are working. Of course, there will never be a day when we don't talk about our family, right? Uy, musta na imong inahan? Uy, namin yun na day ka, taga sa day ka. Okay, so those examples are how collective Filipinos are. And of course, the last thing that I also discussed was about your traditions and culture, your proximity zone. Where you came from? Lahi man gud ang batasan sa mga Bisaya daw o sa mga Ilonggo o sa mga Tagalog. So we are trying to group ourselves. Um, um, we are trying to what do you call this? We're trying to belong ourselves with the group or with our culture, right? Okay, so that's how Filipinos deal with stress sourced from social. How about political? When you say political, do you take it as literally the politics? Well, yes, at some point it is. Okay, political environment, it is how the government govern us as of the moment. Are we happy and satisfied by our administration? Maybe some of you yes, maybe some of you no. Okay, I'll leave that to you. Okay, but again, how do Filipinos deal with stress sourced from the social and political environment? So this will be our guiding question throughout our discussion. Now, let's focus more on stress. This is a very common word for everyone. Na stress na ko, uy, akong stress level, ayaw ko gatagig stress. Please, stress kayo na. Ah, ka-stressful ba ani? Uy, stress ta food. Di na ako magdungag og stress. Okay, stress is a word that we usually use to express our tiredness or our problems. Okay, so there are two types of stress, by the way, everyone. Eustress is the positive kind of stress. Excited na ko sa akong birthday. Excitement there is the eustress. In love kaayo ka and you look so happy sa imong uyab. That's also a eustress. Anything that makes you happy is a stress, okay? But it's a type of eustress. It's a positive kind of stress. But most of the people use the word stress to express their frustrations and their problems and their issues, right? Did someone have you heard someone says na stress ko sa ka excited? I think no one heard that. Like, site na-stress ko kay nakapasa jud ko. But most of the time, people usually use the word stress to express their concerns and issues. Now, this is the type of stress that we usually do or use, distress. Okay, negative type of stress. Now, here, look at this diagram here. Okay, now I want you to think that the performance being said there is your school performance, academic. Now, if you can see, there are calm, eustress and distress on the diagram. Now, when you say calm, that is your comfort zone. Okay, that is your comfort zone. All right. So if your stress is very low with your performance, then you are bored. It's not challenging with you. Now, if your calmness arises with your performance level, then you become very excited, right? Now, when you reach the top of your optimal performance, optimal means your highest performance level. Okay, so given the fact that your performance is high, it means that your stress is eustress. Why? Remember, when you love your courses, you become very productive. When you like to do something, when you love to do something, you're very productive. That is a kind of stress because you're working towards it. But there's a very good performance on it. There's a very good feedback on it. There's a very good result on it, even though you're stressed, because you like what you're doing. That's why when you are having stress level, like a use stress level, it means that even though you are stressed, you're having so much fun, you're enjoying it. And that's why it leads to the optimal performance, or let's just say high performance. Munang usahay matingala ka na nganong baba kayo ni siya grades even though bright unta siya or he or she is smart. Maybe because he or she doesn't love what he or she is doing. Maybe she is striving or he is striving into something na ayaw naman talaga niya. Then that goes to the distress. You become fatigued, you become exhausted, and you become very burnt out. When you say burnt out, that's the stress level we're in. Murag kapoy na jud kayo. That's why your performance level there, it's very low. Okay? So that's why always try to think, kapoy ko pero happy ko. Kapoy ko pero I'm doing good job. Then maybe you're experiencing new stress kahit pagod ka. But then, even if you strive so hard, even if you're very tired, then yet you're not getting any optimal performances, then maybe you are experiencing distress. Then ask yourself, guys, girls, gays, and lesbians, ask yourself, am I really doing something that I would really prefer to do? Am I doing a hard work job na gusto ko talaga or ayaw ko? Then you should ask yourselves. Okay? All right, next. Okay, now, always remember, stress is not the same with trauma. Stress is the physical and psychological reaction to a stressor. Ibig sabihin, that is not a chronic. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya pang matagalan. Okay, dili siya magdugay. Okay, we have different types of how do we cope up with stress. However, in trauma, it is the product of four. First, serious physical injury, death or near-death experience, sexual violation, and psychological abuse. Now, this is prolonged, matagal to. And the thing about trauma, it reoccurs. Ibig sabihin, nangyayari siya ulit mentally. The act, okay, the event might happen already, but it doesn't mean na tapos na siya. Okay? Because there is a psychological impact of that certain event sa imuha, which is trauma. That could be. Alright? So stress is panandalian, trauma is prolonged. And trauma needs, at some point, counseling. Okay? Stress, if medyo mo severe ang stress, then maybe it requires intervention of a psychologist or counselors. But usually, we Filipinos, compared to Westernians, okay, we Filipinos are very good in coping up with our stress. Okay, kasi nga resilient tayo. Kasi magrupo tayo. We are very collective. Okay? All right. Now, so look at this figure. All right. So let's just say the bucket there is you, guys. Ibutang inyong mga nawong diha sa bucket. And the faucets floating on that bucket sa inyo ha, are your stressors. Interpersonal stress mean poor diet or financial worries, pang-sariling stress. Okay? Academic stress, which is very, very prevalent ngayon kasi online class. Everyone is adjusting, everyone is adapting. That's why I'm making your lives easier in my class. Kasi ayoko namang masabi nyo na UTS is acting like a major class. No, I'm not like that. I was also a student before, and I know how it feels to be a student as well. All right, so going back, academic stress, assignments, not getting the results you hope for, strained working, ibig sabihin, parang walay kahumanang trabaho, or maybe you're stuck up on a work in school that until now you don't really know how to surpass it. And relationships with lecturers. Okay. Now, when you say relationships with lecturers, like for example, your relationship with me, am I very strict? Okay, personally to ha, personally, am I very strict? Am I giving too much exercises or not? How about you as students? Are you obedient to your lecturer? Are you following instructions? Sumasagot ba kayo? May respeto ba kayo or wala? When you say relationship na po between student and teachers, there should always be communication there. Kumusta hanay, basically. Musta man ka, musta man mo. Second is, how was the work? Okay. And then, of course, na ay mga uban ninyo na dili ka attend ng class, it's because of difficulties. Technical man yan, emotional, financial, economical, whatsoever. Which is I really do understand, lalo na sa panahon ngayon. That's why I always tell you guys, girls and lesbians and gays, to be communicative. Be honest or good kay makasabot ra good ko. If there are any problems that arises during your class in UTS or maybe that can affect UTS, just let me know and I will try to understand it. Just give me a valid reason and just be honest as possible. Now, going to environmental, of course, pandemic, that is a major stressor right now. Okay, maybe you have issues with your housemates or people who are living in the same roof with you. Okay, struggling to focus on studies. Now, those faucets there are your stressors. That's what you see, or that's what you receive maybe every single day, every hour, or maybe every week or whatsoever. It depends on how frequent do you receive these stressors. Now, when you say buffer zone, that is the threshold. Pag sabing threshold, yan yung limitasyon nyo. Okay, that's your limitation on how long will you take it. Now, as you can see here, when you turn on the faucets, okay, 'di ba ang first niyang mabutangan is ang stress level sa pinakababa, of course. Alang na magsugod ang tubig sa ibaba before sa baba. Of course, sa baba na magsugod. So, the black line there that divides stress level and buffer zone is your threshold. Limitasyon mo 'yan. Okay? So, as long as na kaya mo pang i-take ang stress level mo, as long as na kaya pa ng sistema mo ang stress, then you will have coping skills. These coping skills are healthy coping skills. Okay? I will also discuss it later on what your coping skills are or what is coping skills basically. Now, if napuno na ng kuan, bakit ang stressor, then that becomes your buffer zone. Look at the biggest faucet there. Then, if the stress source surpasses your limitation of coping, then you will now resort to unhelpful coping. Sabihin, mangita na kang agi bisag dili siya healthy just to cope up with stress because tao ra ta. And we, human in nature, when we feel stress, we tend to find ways to distress. Okay? To distress, not distress, distress. Ibig sabihin, pampawala ng stress. All right, so imagine you're the bucket, your stress level, or those small faucets attached to the bucket are your stress level. Yan lang yung kaya nyo. And if ever kaya nyo pa ang stress level nyo, then you can come up with healthy coping skills. But if it reaches the buffer zone or if it pushes you to your limits, then at some point, you will resort to unhelpful coping mechanism. Okay? Now, these are examples of coping mechanism in general. Hindi siya, I cannot say that this is bad or good, but some of it are bad, some of it are good. Changing hair color, texting your ex, maybe you can do that as long as your ex is not committed with someone else or you are not committed as well. I always believe that exes could be friends, but statistically speaking and also through experience, I don't think texting your ex while having your commitment with other is a good idea. All right. Okay. Three is drinking or drugs. Okay, that is probably not a good coping mechanism. Four is bangs, girls. Okay. Five is online shopping. Okay, 12, 12, 12. What is that? The Shopee 11, 11. Okay, smoking, sex, sleeping for 13 hours, isolation, and food. That's me, food. Yeah, I cope. I do coping by eating food, of course. All right. Now, so this is the process of stress response. Okay. So when you are in a situation that gives you stress, your first action is to acknowledge what makes me stress. Okay, what makes me stress? Now, the primary appraisal is figuring out the event. So you have to identify the stimulus or the reason why you are being stressed. Is it academic, intrapersonal, financial, economical? So that's your primary appraisal. Now, your secondary appraisal is how are you going to cope up with it? What are your resources to handle the stressor? Are you the type of person who eats a lot, who goes out a lot, who goes shopping? So those are or your coping mechanism is now part of your secondary appraisal. Again, your primary appraisal is knowing what made me stress. Okay? Why is it very important, class? It is very important to acknowledge the stressor because at some point you will know the cause. There will be reason. Okay, mura nag-uyab. If bulagan mo sa imong uyab, you need a primary appraisal. Why did you do it at the first place? What could be the reason? Di ba? Okay, just like your own stressors, okay, just like you as an individual, you have to figure out your primary appraisal. Kasi at some point, pwede mo na ani mo siya malikayan in the future. Ay, di na ako ni buhaton kay feeling ko mas stress ko ani kaysa una na stress na po ko ani. That's it. Or buhaton na ako ni kay feeling na ko maka-eustress ko ani and maybe I will do it again. All right. That's why it is very important to acknowledge and accept the reason why you are being stressed. And of course, in secondary appraisal, you always have to know as well your coping mechanism. Okay. All right. So, growth, optimism, hope, resilience, efficacy, grit, and gratitude are examples of your traits. You could be resilient. Ibig sabihin, matigas yung loob mo. Oo. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka madaling tablan ng stress. Optimism, you're being positive. Hope, you always see situations with silver lining. Okay, efficacy is doing things with whatever resources you have. All right, so stress response. Now, always remember that these are the characteristics of a stressor. Now, um, if you are confused still, if you are having stress, okay, so these are the things that you need to see. So if there is unpredictability of the event, na-shock ka or na-surprise ka or hindi mo na-expect, where nag-uyab usahay po, bulagang karakadayon, i-ghosting ka. Okay, that is unpredictability of the event. Intensity of the event, gaano ba kagrabe? Nuot ba sa buto, sa kalag, o unsa ba? Uncontrollability. Here, this is very true. It's human nature that if we cannot control things, we become frustrated. Or we find a way to control it. All right? Like pandemic, we cannot control it. That's really a big stressor. And of course, pressure. Students, you are always experiencing this one. Pressure. So always remember, everyone, it is very normal to have negative emotions to abnormal events. So if ever you're not feeling mentally well, maybe let's just say you're having anxiety or stress, maybe that's normal because it is coming from an abnormal event, something that is not part of your routine, something out of your comfort zone. All right? So that's it. Now, these are the signs of stress, emotionally, behaviorally, and physically. So, emotionally, anxiety, okay, apathy. Apathy means lack of interest or losing of interest. Irritability, dali kayo kung saputon. And mental fatigue, you are cognitively, intellectually, mentally drained all the time. It's like, di man kapagod physically, but kapoy kayo ka mentally. It's like you don't want to talk to people muna kasi you need some me time. Me time, okay? Or maybe you just wanna sleep lang kasi you're tired physically. Sorry, mentally. Behavioral, avoidance of responsibilities. That's why it is, as what I've mentioned before, that when you are having distress, your performance level goes down. It's because behaviorally, it is affecting you. Self-destructive behavior. Sige, inom mo unya mag-drive. Okay? Or maybe smoking is a self-destructive behavior. All right? Self-neglect and poor judgment. Okay? You cannot decide. Your fickle-mindedness is overall. Ibig sabihin, I wanna have this, but I wanna have this as well. Or I wanna go to school karon or di ko mato sa school karon. Or something like that. And physical, of course, your stress affects you physically, not just psychologically. Illness, exhaustion, overuse of medicines, physical ailments, and complaints. Sakit kaya akong kuto-kuto, sakit kaya akong likod, maybe that's a stress. Buyod kayo ko, that could be a stress. All right? Okay. Now, these are your coping strategies. Okay, I'll teach you something like not really a workshop, but something like this. Okay. So when you are receiving stress or what I call the primary appraisal, you have to slow down. Mag-isip ka muna mabuti. Inhale. This is true. Okay. Inhale ng malalim, exhale ng malalim. Inhale ng malalim, exhale ng malalim. Especially when when you get angry and you don't want to say something really offending to someone. Pause, inhale, exhale. Biologically, it really helps. Okay, it really helps you. Now slow down, think, ngano na stress gali ko? Kay tungod sa aning sitwasyon na. Now organize and prioritize. Sige, let's just go to your academic. Slow down. Ang daming binibigyan exercises. Slow down, slow down. Inhale, exhale. Check all the subjects. Kanus ang deadline ani. Kanus ang deadline ani. That's where organize and prioritize go. Unaha sa ang sa tingin mo kinahanglan na ipasa as soon as possible or unaha sa ang something na feeling mo madali lang. Okay. And of course, live a healthy life. Okay. A healthy life means a healthy mind. All right. So try to eat some foods that are really good for you mentally and physically. It's always, I don't want to be hypocrite. Okay. I also drink and smoke. But at some point, we have to manage. We have to personally manage. Hanggang saan yung limitasyon natin pag uminom? Hanggang saan tayo abot sa paninigarilyo? Bakit tayo naninigarilyo at the first place? Why are we drinking at the first place? Is it really necessary for us to drink at the moment? Is it really necessary for us to smoke at the moment? Try to assess yourselves. Recognize and accept limits ka na. Know your limitations and your potentials. That's what I've told you about your motivations. Okay? So, you have to always combine yourself with your real self and ideal self. Real self is kung anong kakayahan mo. Like, who and what you are right now. Kung sino ka talaga ngayon. Ideal self is what you want to become. Okay? So, kinahanglan, ang ideal self mo is something na kaya ng real self mo. You cannot be Superman if your real self is not Clark. Okay? You cannot be something else or someone else if you think that your real self cannot achieve that. So you have to in line, you have to be congruent to what your real self is and ideal self para wala frustrations and anxiety and stress. Okay? And seek social support. So since we are Filipinos here, it is very important for us to be collective at some point. Hang out with your friends, talk to your loved ones. It is very, very important. Advice ilaha is a good motivation for you. Okay? And of course, write down. Some people don't really write it down, okay, but some do, like mga journal writings and diaries. Yes, that could also be. All right. Okay, so these are your not really a process, but sort of a process on how do you cope up with with stressors. Now, these are the activities to consider. So, I won't read all of this already because I know you can read this one. Okay, so these are just suggestions maybe highly recommended, but not something that I want you to do. Okay? It's all up to you. You have your own personal cognitive process. Okay? You can decide on your own. So maybe some of you are doing this now since pandemic, and some of you might still be, wow, maybe I can do that as well. I never thought about that part of, conversation. All right, so indoor, outdoor, social, and rebuilding activities. Okay, so rebuilding means helping people. Social means helping your interpersonal skills. Outdoor means if you can go outside, and indoor is when you cannot go outside. Now, this is how you develop healthy thinking. Remember what Catriona Gray said during her Miss Universe answer. You always have to see situations with silver lining. It means that you always need to see situations in a very optimistic approach or way. You have to always be positive. No one can help you but only your positivity in mind. Because when you have a positive mind, you can help yourself. And you can find help as well. All right, so when you get stuck in a traffic, okay, so the two first thoughts there are the negative ones. I'm going to be late and get in trouble. That's very obvious. That's part of your thought, and that's really obvious. And why would you need to think about that when it's really obvious that it's going to happen? So you have to find a way for you to think it in the most positive way, which is I have a good excuse for missing the boring meeting. Well, boring is not really a good state of conversation, but then if it really helps you, nothing's gonna hurt it. Instead, it's going to help you. Okay, it's a relief. So again, to develop healthy thinking, you always need to see situations with silver lining. Okay, you have to be positive all the time. Kasi a positive mind helps you, and when it helps you, you can find help as well. Okay, a clearer mind. Sabaga, na kay mas clearer mind if you have positive mind. Okay. Now, so let's try to look at this one. Look at the unhelpful thoughts. It's unfair. It's their fault this happened. So when you have those thoughts, these are the things that will give you, the reaction: angry and vengeful. Angry, frustrated, vengeful, accusing, and mistrusting. But then, if you find situations with silver lining, or when you approach something in the most optimistic way, this could have happened. And what could be your feeling? Realistic, accepting, understanding, and reasonable. Okay? Accepting and hopeful. So you can all read this one as well. And I'm so sure some of you are doing this, and some of you are always on unhelpful thoughts. So try to look at the mirror or try to reassess yourselves. Try to ask yourselves, what have you done for the past months? And what were your thoughts? Unhelpful or helpful thoughts? Have you seen the situations with silver lining? Have you approached your stressors in the most optimistic approach or not? And what feelings it gave you? Did it make you feel better or did it make you feel worse? So it's all up to you. Okay, so this one as well. Okay, so it's just the same. Okay, so you can read this one as well, but it is just the same with this one. Okay, important reminders. All right. So I forgot to add some things here, but I will just mention this one. Okay, first is do not self-diagnose. Not because you're sad, you're depressed. Because depression is a clinical disorder. It's a mental disorder. Okay? So it is a diagnosis. You cannot use the word depression to describe your feelings because you haven't undergone any clinical intervention or sa doktor pa, hindi ka pa nagpa-check up. So wag kang feeling. Parang ganun ba? Okay? If you are sad, very sad, then consult a psychologist or a counselor. Okay? There's no harm in asking help. I understand that there is still a stereotype and stigma here in the Philippines that kapag ang isang tao na pumunta sa clinic ng psychologist, buang dayon. Help me, guys. Guys, please. Girls, gays, and lesbians, help me educate people na everyone can ask for help mentally speaking. Ang ospital is hindi lang pang physical, pwede siyang pang mental. Okay? Your mental health is as much as important as your physical health. Kasi kahit healthy ka, but then your mental health is not okay, then everything is guba. Alright? So help me, everyone, please educate your friends that when they're having a problem, seek professional help and never self-diagnose. Okay? Do not use the word depression as how to describe sadness. Because in depression, it takes a lot of time. Okay? Of course, do not self-medicate kasi ang mga Pinoy mahilig sa ganyan. Sakit akong ulo, magme-phenamic dagway ko. Although that's a good thing kasi it shows how resilient we are, but at some point it doesn't help kasi usahan namang yung mga Filipinos na they become doctor just the next day. They become politicians just the next day. They become jack of all trades just the next week. So let's try to educate ourselves and reflect. How do we have this kind of knowledge? Are we trained for this? Are we educated for such? Know your real self and ideal self going back there. And of course, seek professional help if needed. Okay? Walang masama sa manghingi ng tulong kapag kinakailangan. To be specific, kung sa tingin mo mayroon kang problema behaviorally, cognitively, psychologically, counselors are always there, psychologists are always there. There's no harm in seeking professional help. It might save you. And as well, it might save the people you love the most. Hindi mo lang alam, maybe just because of your mental health problems, nakakasakit ka ng ibang tao. Or the worst is nakakasakit ka na sa sarili mo. So you have to do that as well. All right, so that's it. Okay, so this is your fourth discussion for UTS, or Understanding the Self. I'm going to upload this one within the holiday week, but I am not asking you to watch it back kasi that's my Christmas gift to all of you. And again, for your 10 points, I already added it. Okay, thank you so much again for giving me the Christmas gift that I just asked from you to like and subscribe and follow all those social media platforms because this that is also my job. Okay, so it gave me a very big help, by the way. So thank you so much, everyone. All right, so I'm not going to edit this one just to avoid the watermark as the previous videos had. So I'll see you soon. Again, maybe we can have some video call in the future before this semester ends. I just want to see all of you again. All right, have a great holiday and enjoy and spend the rest of your week with your family and have some rest. Reflect. Bye.